Okay, so welcome into our history of the Jewish people. And last time we were discussing Yaakov living in the house of his father-in-law Lavan, and how he was working day and night, literally, for the opportunity to marry. And he married Leah mistakenly first, then he married Rachel, and then he married Zilha and Bilhah, who had been servants to Rachel and Leah, but who had been freed and became free wives to Yaakov. So he's paid off his 7 and 7 years for the wives that he has. Right now, he needs to start worrying about his own household and earning for his own household. And thank God he's got 11 kids. It's time to start taking up his own responsibility. So at this point, he now turns to Lavan and he says, I need to start worrying about my own family, and I need to start making money for myself. And so interested in let me leave and go off my own. Now Lavan at this point has understood that all the blessings that came to him have been on Yaakov's behalf, because Yaakov came to town. A tzaddik comes to town, the blessings come to the town, right? So he doesn't want him leaving. Lavan had daughters until Yaakov came to town, and now he's been blessed with sons, and he's been blessed with a very profitable business with the animals, the herds, and the cattle and sheep and everything else has all been blessed because of Yaakov's being here. So he doesn't want Yaakov to leave. So he tells Yaakov that I'd like you to work for me. But before he says that, he also has the curiosity about, why is it all of a sudden now that you're interested in worrying about your family and building up your family and things like that? And part of the answer that he gives to Lavan is because now he's prepared to go home. Well, what does that mean? He's prepared to go home, right? So on the metaphysical side of things, the house of Yaakov Esav was compared to a house of straw, and Yaakov on his own was not able to overtake Esav, all the craziness of Esav, right? But Joseph was just born, and the house of Joseph is compared to the house of flame, of fire, and obviously fire can consume straw easily. So the blessings that come to the household because Joseph has been born is already sufficient that now Yaakov can head home with all that power built in. Right? His family is strong enough to deal with this now. Also, there's another aspect of Joseph that Joseph brings to the fore, which is the personality of Joseph is such that if Joseph and Esav would have a conversation, Joseph could say, again, we're talking about beyond space and time, but Joseph could say, like, why you hate my father so much? He deceived me. He treated me ill. Joseph's godly soul could respond and say, I have 10 brothers who sold me off as a slave, and yet I repaid them with kindness. So there's this quality of Joseph that overpowers anything Esav has to say. And an additional part of this is that we will see in the future that that Esav was raised in the house of his father and his grandfather, a tzaddik and another tzaddik, right? And yet look what he did. Joseph was sold into slavery and then went into prison and then became the viceroy of Egypt. And in all of that exposure to evil, he remained a tzaddik. So it's with the advent of Joseph coming to the family that Yaakov is able to say, okay, it's time to go home. We can now handle, we've got the capacity to handle whatever was coming, right? But Lavan doesn't want him to go. He says, okay, listen, I want you to stay. What do you want? You name your wages. What do you want? Right? Now, obviously, Yaakov has dealt with Lavan for a long time, so he knows this, the games that are played here, right? So what he says to him, he says, I'm going to separate all of the sheep, and all the speckled and spotted sheep, they're going to go with you, and your sons can take care of them. I'll take care of what's left. And any spotted or speckled sheep that are born to the ones I have left, which is genetically not likely, those will be my wages. And Lavan is thinking, whoa, good deal. Yeah, sure. No problem. Right? And they make that deal, and they made the deal, and Yaakov will continue to work with him. They separated the sheep, and guess what happens? God blesses that the sheep that are born are the ones that Yaakov will keep. So this goes on for a little while, and then Lavan is like, well, hang on a second, let's change the deal here. Let's make it a new deal. I'm not going with this anymore, right? So, but whatever happens, whatever deal Lavan changes it to, Yaakov is blessed. Because Yaakov is blessed by God no matter what happens. So therefore, whatever Lavan tries to cheat him, God blesses him, and they come out to be Yaakov's sheep. In fact, at one point, there's an interesting story here, and it's really a mystical story because it's kind of a strange story, right? Yaakov takes some twigs, some branches, right? And he peels them in a stripe, so that there's this like a barbershop pole, right? So there's this stripe running down of peeled versus not peeled, right? And he stubbed these in the trough where the ewes are coming to eat, to drink when they're in heat. And the males come, and all the sheep that are born striped, because that's what Lavan had changed the deal to. Only striped. You don't have any striped? Okay, anything born now after this is only striped. And so it's a strange story, right? But there's a metaphysical concept here going on that Yaakov was fulfilling the mitzvah of tefillin. Like we strap, you get that striping. Somehow the concept of the mitzvah, because remember, the commandments weren't given yet. We're still well before Mount Sinai. We haven't even gone to Egypt yet to get freed from Egypt to go to Mount Sinai. This is early in the story, right? But somehow Yaakov is fulfilling this concept of tefillin through the striped branches and the sheep. But come what may, the bottom line is Yaakov started becoming very, very wealthy, because no matter how many times Lavan changed the deal, and it's over 100 times, nevertheless, God blesses the sheep that are going to belong to Yaakov. That's the bottom line. So this goes on for a while, and we start to see that Yaakov becomes very wealthy, and he takes some of the cattle and the calves and the cattle and the sheep that are born, and he sells those. And with those, he has camels, and he has donkeys, and he has servants, and he has maidservants, and he has gold, and he has silver. So he's acquired a tremendous amount over the years that he's now there dealing with Lavan, to the degree that Lavan's sons start becoming exceedingly jealous. Well, when someone's jealous, they tend to blame you for everything. Yeah. So even though Yaakov is the one who brought all the blessings to town, and Lavan has been blessed with sons and wealth himself because of Yaakov, so Yaakov is now blamed for all the problems. And the sons have become very jealous, and they hate Yaakov and his family, and they would like to do away with him. Yaakov understands it's time to leave. But last time he tried to leave, Lavan did everything to prevent him from leaving. So Yaakov calls his wives and they go out to the field. Rachel and Leah go out to the field. And he has a conversation where they can't be overheard. And he says, basically, it's time to go. Things are not working over here. And he has had a nevuah, a prophecy from God that said, return to Eretz Yisrael. My divine presence will not dwell upon you out here. Return to the Holy Land. And take possession of the land that has been destined to you and your father and your grandfather, right? So it's time to go home. So he says to Rachel and Leah, I'm going home. I'd like your investments to do this. And their response is like, what do we have here? Lavan didn't even treat us like daughters. He sold us off. Like everybody else gets a dowry. And you had to work 7 years to marry each one of us. Like, how is that a loving father-daughter relationship, right? So we are 100% with you. Not a question. We're 100% on board. We're out of here, right? So they figured that the best time to leave is when Lavan and his sons are taking care of their sheep way over there. It's like a 3-day journey over there. And that's when Yaakov decides we're gonna get out of here. We're gonna go the other way, right? And so they take off. Now, before they take off with all of their possessions, Rachel is concerned on two facts. She's still a very cool, very kind person, and she's concerned, number one, about her father's idolatry. And number two, she's worried about his teraphim. Teraphim are a specific type of idolatry. And I'm not going to go into the details of how it was made because it's a horrific thing. But the bottom line is that the idol of the teraphim was able to tell secrets through black magic, through the evil, the tome, the impurity, the arts of impurity, and it would be through the teraphim that Lavan would know that Yaakov left. So Rachel took the teraphim so that her father wouldn't discover them gone and where they are, and that he wouldn't have that idol worship in the house. So she takes those with her, right? So essentially she's stealing them, right? So she hid them, again, l'shem shemayim, for good reasons, but nevertheless, she was still taking them, right? So they head out on a journey. They're about 3 days out when the people in the house realize that they're gone. They're not like out for a picnic. They're gone and everything's missing, right? So they run to tell Lavan. And so Lavan, he's 3-day journey this way. When he hears about it, they hightail it on horses back the other way, and they catch up in 3 days, which means that the distance that Yaakov had to travel, the distance to tell Lavan and for him to catch up, he came fast, and it only took him 3 days to catch up. What was more than it was a 6-day journey. So he then accuses him, why have you stolen my daughters? Which you'd expect from him, right? Yeah. And he wants to destroy Yaakov. He wants to kill Yaakov and take back all the wealth that Yaakov was leaving with, because he feels it's his. It came from him. Now, you and I know there's no logic in that. He swindled them 100 times, right? But nevertheless, that's the type of person, is that you stole from me. Everything you have, those are my daughters, and that's my wealth. Everything came from me, and you stole all of that. That's his claim. And he wants to kill Yaakov, destroy him, and take all the wealth back, right? So, on Lavan's journey back, some things happen on the way. I want to come back to that in a second, right? So once he catches up, he tells Yaakov, why did you steal away at the darkness of night, and why did you steal my daughters like captives to the sword, and why did you all this wealth that you took is all mine. He said, and I would do evil to you. I could do evil to you, but I was warned last night by your God, don't speak good or evil to Yaakov. Because even the good you'd say is evil. It's Lavan, right? Don't speak good or evil to Yaakov. And therefore, I'm not going to destroy you. But why did you deceive me? Why did you cheat, right? So Yaakov explains, I knew that you wouldn't let us leave. I felt you wouldn't let us leave. And you'd keep your daughters or whatever. And therefore we left. Lavan also said, and why did you steal my idols? And Yaakov was like, that's crazy, right? You can search everything in my camp and take anything you feel that belongs to you. That which truly belongs to you, you can take, right? But whoever stole your idols, they should be cursed and die. He had no idea what he just did. We will see that she never makes it to Israel, right? She'll die in childbirth from this curse. He had no idea what he was saying, but that which a tzaddik says gets fulfilled, right? So Lavan started searching through, and he searched through each of the daughters and each of their tents and all the grandkids and everything else, and so he comes back to Rachel, because she's the one he trusts the least in all of this, right? And she doesn't get off of her camel. She says that, I'm sorry, forgive me for not getting up, but the way of women is upon me. And yet he still checks her saddlebags. And by a miracle, the teraphim turn into linens. And she's not discovered. God doesn't allow her to be shamed. It's bad enough what's coming, right? And so Yaakov says, I served you faithfully for 20 years, 14 years for my wives, and 6 years guarding your flock. Are any of your sheep missing that you should be pursuing me? To the contrary, since I arrived, lions attacked the flock every day and mangled the sheep, and yet when I arrived, God protected your herds, and lions did not attack, and anything that was lost, you took it from me. It was my loss, not yours. So how can you be accusing me of anything here? If not for the merit of my fathers, I would have been left empty-handed. But Hashem saw my misery, and God protected me. So Lavan says, all right, let's make a covenant. Let's make a covenant between us that will never come to war, and that covenant should be lasting to our children and grandchildren as well. There'll be and we'll set up a stone, and we'll mark it as a covenant and designate this place and this stone as a symbol of our oath to never do harm to each other or the family. So then Lavan departs, and of course he makes a whole scene about missing his children and his daughters and his grandkids. Of course, all of it's a lie, but he makes a whole scene over there. The hypocrisy of it all, right? When Lavan returns to his home, within a short time he becomes a pauper again. With just as much as he had when Yaakov had first arrived. The night he pursued Yaakov, burglars broke into his house, carried away some of his stuff, and it was clear that all of the blessings were only because of Yaakov, nothing for himself, right? And yeah. Now back to Yaakov. So Yaakov now comes back on his way home. Now remember when he came to Har HaMoriah, and he had to stop for the night, and he had the vision of angels coming and going. So as he's coming into Israel again, so now there's two camps of 600,000 angels. One camp is coming to take leave from him, to depart, because they're the angels over the lands of the world. The lands of the rest of the world. And then there's another set of angels that are coming, that now you're coming into Eretz Yisrael again. They're coming to protect him and celebrate with him. And of course, the fact that Yaakov is coming back to Eretz Yisrael is a sign of great celebration for all of the angels on high, that the sanctity of Yaakov and his family are all coming back to the Holy Land, right? Why did he deserve such a reception? You think about it, like, how what a hard life he's had, right? He grew up at home. He was doing fine for 13, 14 years. And then all of a sudden he has to leave. He has a good period of time. He's sitting in yeshiva and learning. But then once he leaves home and he leaves yeshiva, he's dealing with Lavan for years. He dealt with Esav. He had to deal with Lavan and all the cheat and deceptive and stuff like. And yet, in the midst of all of that, he was blessed by God. He left empty-handed, and he came back with two entire camps of wealth, right? And so this has been an extraordinary accomplishment to come back holy, physically healthy, mentally healthy, emotionally healthy, financially wealthy, and to come back with all of that, so all that he's been through, is a huge thing and time for a great celebration. But of course, next he'll have to deal with Esav, which is why he ran away to begin with. And that will be the next story.